लेक्चर बोलो अभी एक लेक्चर एक
and we will stream to live stream. Good afternoon, one and all present here. I, Dr. Manzoor Khan, Assistant Professor, Faculty of Law, Integral University. On behalf of entire Faculty of Law, warmly welcome you all in the 30 days interdisciplinary faculty development program on emerging trends in administration of criminal justice and forensic science. Today we begin with the fifth technical session of Module 1, and the resource person for today's technical session is Professor Dr. Munawwar Alam Khalid sir, Dean Student Welfare, Integral University, Lucknow. On the topic is Green Criminology and Green Policy. Sir is currently working as Head of the Department of Environmental Science at Integral University, Lucknow. He is a renowned academician and researcher with 24 plus years of experience in climate change, environment, biodiversity, disaster management. He holds a degree of PhD in zoology from Aligarh Muslim University, Aligarh, and a diploma in remote sensing from the Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, Dehradun. Sir has worked on many projects funded by prestigious organizations like World Bank, Japan Bank of International Cooperation, DIFD UK, UNESCO, and the Asian Development Bank. Sir has many key positions at institutions such as Earthwatch Institute UK, the Energy and Resources Institute, and the Wildlife Institute of India. Sir is an accredited EIA expert for ecology and biodiversity in the hydropower projects in India. He has published numerous papers in national as well as international journals and is involved in various committees and working groups, including India's National Biodiversity Strategy and Action Plan. Now, without taking much time, I would like to invite our today's resource person, Honorable Professor Dr. Munawwar Alam Khalid sir. Now, over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Manzoor Khan sahab, for your generous introduction. And I'm grateful to the Faculty of Law and Dr. Seema and Professor Naseem Saab for giving me this opportunity. So, in fact, as the topic which has been given to me, I just want to have a few seconds to share my screen so that we can move forward. So I hope you can see my presentation over here, Dr. Manzoor. Can you see my presentation? Hello. Hello, Dr. Manzoor, can you see my presentation? Hello.
Yes, sir, visible.
Dr. Manzoor, can you see my presentation, please?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I will move ahead with that now.
Yes.
So we are going to talk about green criminology and green policy. I would like to just give you a perspective for the same. In fact, I would like to tell in the very beginning that I am not a lawyer like you all. So certainly, I will be talking from a very different perspective uh, about this presentation which I have made for all of you. Uh, how to move ahead with this? I think, can we just 1 second? Presentation, I'm not able to open it. Dr. Manzoor, can we the screen which you are seeing it, I'm not able to move to the next one. How to do that?
Sir, you have to check it from your part.
Yeah, no, no, but this is something which is a screen it is showing now, and it is frozen screen.
Sir, this is
So,
green. Sir, this is green criminology and green policing a perspective.
okay, now I will move to second slide. Can you see that? It is okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Green crime definition.
Okay,
Clearly
thank you so
visible,
much.
sir.
So, friends, this is something a very interesting topic. You know, it is a new topic, and you all are lawyers. I'm sure most of you, and you talk about criminology. You know about that. That is concerned with the. So, I would like to clarify a few things. Like, what is green crime? There are crime you know better. That what is crime? Any offense which has been made, but this green crime was first proposed in 1990 by Lynch, and still, after so many years, we don't have a certain or finalized definition for that. So, one of the most best theoretically thoughtful and interdisciplinary definition of the green crime, it comes from the work of the Bian, which has come in 1999, and which says that any act that contributes to the pain, suffering, or death of an animal, or that otherwise threatens its welfare. Animal abuse may be physical, psychological, or emotional, and may involve active maltreatment or passive neglect or omissions, and may be direct or indirect, intentional or intentional. So, this is one of the most holistic definition which defines green crime. And I'm sure you must have read some of the news few years back. You know, it was during that COVID period and all, very stressful situation. One of the person in South, he had thrown his dog, pet dog, from a high-rise building, and this is that innocent animal, you know, has died, and because of this, these falls under the green crime definition. Then, further improving on that, Bayan in 2007, Bayan in South, they said that the green crime involved the study of harms against humanity and the environment, which including space and non-human animals committed by both. So the powerful institutions, for example, governments, transnational corporation, military apparatus, and ordinary people, everybody is involved in that. And this definition implies that one form of green crime which criminologist has ought to address involve power relationship, an approach consistent with the Lynch earlier definition. And this can be committed by any crime which can be committed by ordinary people. So let us try to understand more into green criminology. That was the definition. So green criminology, traditionally, it is a traditional criminology uses as a narrow definition of green crime, because it defines any activity that breaches a law that protects the environment. Whereas, in contrast, the green criminology argues that green crime includes all types of environmental harm regardless of legislation. And it can be said that green criminology is a type of transgressive criminology because it breaks the boundaries of traditional criminology, and it focuses more on the concept of harm rather than the concept of the crime. And a lot of authors like White and all, they took this argument a step further and defined green crime as any human action that causes environmental harm. So clearly, in this opinion, it is definition is on the ultimate harm that arose from the crime. There are few examples I would like to share with you. That what are the green crime examples? It is basically, if you in the first instance says it is considered green crime depends on whom you ask, the person you are asking to. Just an example, dumping a small plastic wrapper in the sea. So in the first phase, it doesn't look like a crime, it is not punishable under law, but because of this activity of dumping a small plastic wrapper in the sea, it can be a green crime if it inevitably affects the fishes in the sea. So that falls under the purview of the green criminology. Then any illegal trade in the wildlife, smuggling of the ozone depleting substances, then illicit trade in the hazardous waste, illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing. and illegal logging and associated trade in the stolen timber. These are the activities which fall under green criminology. Crimes. So, what are the different types of green crimes? Basically, Nigel has classified them into two major types. One is the primary and the secondary green crime. In the primary green crime, it is a crime that directly harms the environment and its members. And members are who? They are humans, they are wildlife, they are plants, they are anything which is having a life. Then the primary green crimes, those crimes which constitute harm inflicted on the environment, and not only direct harm but by extension, those that inflict harm on people because of the damage to the environment, and our classic environmental victims who suffer health or other problem when the land, water or air they interact with is polluted, damaged or destroyed. So basically, four main categories of the primary green crime. That is crime of the air pollution, crimes of the deforestation, crimes of species decline and animal rights, and the crimes of water pollution. Then comes the secondary green crime. This is a crime that arises out of disobeying rules that seek to regulate environmental disaster. It is also called symbiotic green crime. An important example is a state violence against environmental group. Statutes worldwide confer power on environmental groups and NGOs to look into it. So any disobedience, even by state, it can be challenged by the environmental NGOs. Then the Environmental Act in UK 2021 that allows NGOs to bring derivative claim against the companies. I'll give you some of the examples later about these. It may be worth noting that a single act can include both types of green crime. For example, animal rights and the decline of species. The causes of this may be due to the poaching and trafficking of the animal. So that falls in the purview of the primary green crime, or the illegal hunting or environmental changes that form that secondary crime, or the organized crime which involves trafficking of the products, environment, animal products or any product, biological products. Then secondary or symbiotic green crime, which is another name given to the secondary crime that grows out of the flouting of rules that seek to regulate environmental disasters. And two examples which they have given is, one is the state violence against oppositional group, like when Greenpeace Rainbow Warrior ship was destroyed by the French government to stop its nuclear opposition efforts. And the second one is the hazardous waste and organized crime, when mafia-like organized crime groups they assist businesses in evading severe regulation on the pollution and the disposal of hazardous trash by collecting payment upfront to remove such waste. So they fall in that purview. Then what is the scope and impact of green crime? Scope of the green crime is that the recent scientific research suggests that our planet Earth has entered an era of global ecosystem collapse. Very recently, the United Nations has come up with a report that Earth is not on the right track. Why? Because they, uh, the global warming and the climate change, the way our commitment to reduce the greenhouse gases, we are not following that, and Earth is in problem. So, which is caused by human activities such as pollution and excessive consumption, and the green crime becomes more serious as opposed to corporate or state crime, because its effects are felt not just by a single person but everyone who is part of the environment. So you are not inflicting pain on one person but the whole community, whole society. And the scope of green crime is no longer just about environmental harm. It also includes enforcement of environmental laws and the lack of the environmental justice. Well, some statistics, if we look into the green crime statistics, that increasing scope of green crime, we must also remember that even though some green crime effect can be quantified, others cannot, like psychological and emotional hardship, which a family faces due to the deforestation or destroying their livelihood in villages. Still, we have a lot of tribal people who are living in and around forest areas. So the moment you stop them or you do the deforestation, you make the changes, their dependence is reduced. So they go through a trauma, which is psychological hardship. That also falls under that. And when we further analyze statistics related to green crime, it may not be surprising to note that in terms of value, green crime stands as the fourth largest crime in the world after drug trafficking, counterfeit crimes, and the human trafficking. This has come out from the UNEP report. And however, a large part of this does not consider a qualitative effect of the green because it is uh, not much recorded, but it forms. And the quantifiable statistics of green crimes are staggering. The last decade has seen a rise in environmental crime by an annual growth rate of more than 5 to 7%, which is higher than the annual growth rate of global GDP. Well, one of the green crime case study that's called Modestly. It is a recent example in which an organization being held accountable for green crime is the Weir Waste Services case in Bordesley Green. This is a Birmingham based company that created a mountain of rubbish at its Bordesley Green base and breached their environmental permit and subsequently failed to comply with an enforcement notice. And this their bosses failed to do so and continued adding to the pile of in spite of repeated warnings. Then the court fined the company pound 46,250 and it also ordered to pay around 50,000 pounds toward the cost of the prosecution. So after this case, the deputy director of the Environment Agency said that it would take strong enforcement action whenever companies continue to store excessive levels. So this was a very good example and a warning to such companies. So it is a clear-cut example of how important environmental damage is. And the green crime is a serious problem, not just because of legal duties being breached, but because it can damage the environment and those who are the part of it. Well, in terms of some legal framework, which I'm sure you people know better than me, the credit for raising awareness of environmental preservation and conservation goes back to late Srimati Indira Gandhi, the former Prime Minister of India, when she was motivated by her participation at the Stockholm Conference in 1992. And she represented India, where she represented our country. And the 42nd Amendment Act of 76, which was added two additional constitutional clauses to the Indian Constitution. The state and courts are required by Article 48A to safeguard and improve the improvement, while Article 51AG, it puts a duty on every one of us as a people to protect the environment. It is in our constitution. Then environmental safeguard policies which are existing in India, we have a very good record. The Stockholm Declaration, which happened in 1972, it encouraged India to ensure environmental protection. And that same year, Department of Science and Technology established a body called National Council for Environment Policy and Planning. It was then renamed the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and now it is called Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, which serves as India's top authority on environmental regulation and protection. Then the government of India, they have developed environmental protection measures to lessen the dangers associated with development effort. And this is taking a good stride, and we are moving further in it and safeguarding the biodiversity and the natural resources of the country. Well, these are some of the environmental safeguards which to monitor the possible environmental risk and impact assessment associated with developmental activities and to define measures and process to effectively manage risk and reduce negative impact of development and to prevent and mitigate excessive burden on people and their environment. These are some of the policies which we are proud of. That national water policy in 1987, it aims to target to govern the planning and development of water resources, and it was reviewed twice in 2002 and again in 2012 to further strengthen it. Then the national forest policy of 1988, it was to maintain ecological balance and safeguarding the interest of tribal and forest dependent people by involving them in timber production. So the draft national policy was released in 82 and accepted in 2019 to take action and safeguarding the livelihood of the people. Then the National Agroforestry Policy 2014 to increase the sustainable agriculture production, and limited work is being done towards promoting agroforestry and for further. And then policy statement for the abatement of pollution, which is very old, 1992 policy. And for to strengthening that, we had enforced through Central Pollution Control Board or State Pollution Control Board. And then various studies have been performed to look into the efficacies of these institutions in implementing. Then we had National Population Policy 2000, which was to achieve a stable population by 2045 through strategically managing the total fertility rate. Working is going on in that. And then we have very important National Environment Policy, which came up in 2006 to achieve the sustainable development by incorporating environmental consideration into the development process. And then uh, various environmental misgovernance, which were fueling the destruction of the environment by molding the norms in favor. So that is being worked on that. Then we have National Conservation Strategy and Policy Statement on Environment and Development of 1992, which was made to regulate the utilization of natural resources through joint effort of the local communities and other stakeholders by incorporating traditional knowledge for environmental protection. Further, there are important laws to combat environmental crime in India. I would like to share a few of them. Government of India started the program for preservation of biodiversity and natural resources since Environmental Protection Act came into effect in 1986, and there are so many other. The but it is being pushed back due to various accelerated industrialization, urbanization, and other harmful human activities, which are further causing climate change. And it is a tough and very challenging thing. But we have in place the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, the Water Prevention and Control Act 74, Forest Conservation Act 80, 1980, the Air Prevention and Control Act, then the Environmental Protection Act, Recycle Plastic one, then Municipal Solid Waste Management and Handling Rules, Batteries and Handling Rules, the Biological Diversity Act, National Green Tribunal Act, and the Wildlife Protection Amendment Bill of 2021. And all these lead to the green reduction of the green crimes and abatement of that. Then we have the Wildlife Protection Act 1972. This act provided the protection to a listed species of animal, birds, and plants, and also for the establishment and network of ecologically important protected areas. This has really worked wonders for the country, and we had now number of sanctuaries, national parks, and all. And this act provided the formulation of wildlife advisory boards, wildlife wardens, and specifying their powers and duties, so giving teeth to the law. Then it helped India became a party to the Convention of International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild, which is called in brief CITES, which is a multilateral treaty with the objective of protecting endangered animals and plants, and also known as Washington Convention, and was adopted as a result of meeting of the IUCN members. Then we have Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1974, which was the first Indian environmental law, which was concerned with ensuring that water bodies like lakes and rivers are not polluted. Then it has got various chapters and acts, etc. And the Water Act was amended again in 1988. And before the amendment, courts could only recognize actions brought by boards. Now, the Amendment Act modified Section 49 and allowed citizens to bring action under the Water Act. Further, the state board must also make disclosure to citizens unless they violate public interest. Then we have very, very important Forest Conservation Act 1980, which was a law passed by Indian Parliament to address concerns related to incidental or connected to the conservation of forest. Again in 1988, it was amended, changed, and the Forest Act was created in an effort to preserve the nation's forest and stop further deforestation. As you could see that it falls under the green crime. Then we have Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act 1981. Again, this has an objective to prevent and control air pollution under various chapters and this thing sections, and this was further mandated that certain conditions have to be fulfilled under the act, and the board has the power to issue the direction which the government is bound to follow. These can be the closure and prohibition of the industry, operation or process, and also stoppage of electricity, water, and other services. So these very powerful act. Then we have Environmental Protection Act 1986, which is regarded as India's first comprehensive environmental protection law after it, the Bhopal gas catastrophe. We know it was one of the most painful thing which has happened, which took place in 1984 and still remembered as one of the worst days in Indian history. So it has served as the immediate impetus for bringing this Act of Environmental Protection Act, and this also deals with various parts of environmental protection separately under various sections, and empowers the central government to make rule to protect the environment, and also allows the state government, similar to one state government enjoys the Air Act. And this consolidates all the above provision and grant the government to power to take action in the interest of environmental protection. Then we have recycled plastic manufacture and uses rules. As we all know, plastic has become a big menace. It is taking the whole world and creating pollution. So this state government and union territory administration and any law regarding non-biodegradable garbage, and you all know that plastic, ban, because of which you are not able to get this, and it is being replaced by eco-friendly and other recycled plastic materials. Then we have municipal solid waste management and handling rules. So every municipal authority is responsible for the collection, segregation, storage, transportation, processing, and disposal of municipal solid waste. And it was subject to guidelines from 2000. And you could see it is working well, because most of these municipal corporations here in Lucknow also, you could see Lucknow Nagar Nigam or municipal corporations, they have a very separate section in which they collect this garbage. They are responsible for collection, segregation, storage, transportation, everything, and that has come only because of this handling rules. And in terms of infrastructure development, the establishment of landfill and other waste processing and disposable facilities, monitoring and ensuring compliances, that falls under it. And you all know that we are short of land, and landfill have become fully saturated now. Very difficult to get places to have those landfill sites. Batteries Management and Handling Rule 2001, which the Ministry of Environment and Forest notified the final rules entitled Batteries Management and Handling Rule on May 16, 2001, in order to regulate the collection and recycle of used lead acid batteries in the country. And lead is one of the metals well known for its potential to cause environment and health hazard. So the disposal of used lead acid batteries has been a major environmental problem worldwide, which has been tackled under this rule. Then we have Biological Diversity Act 2002. It is an act which was enacted by the Parliament of India for the preservation of biological diversity in India, and provides a mechanism for the equitable sharing of benefits arising out of the use of traditional biological resources and knowledge. In this, provisions are that the person will have punishable, it is punishable with imprisonment for a term which may extend to 5 years, or with a fine which may extend to 10 lakh rupees, and where the damage caused exceed 10 lakh rupees, fine may be commensurate with the damage caused, or both. So very, very strong and powerful act. Then we have National Green Tribunal Act. Under this NGT, which is called in brief, the cases involving environmental protection, the preservation of forest and other natural resources, as well as enforcement of any environmental legal rights, and provision of relief and compensation for damage to people and property, as well as for matters related to incidental to those cases that are resolved effectively. So this is very, very strong. And the Code of Civil Procedure 1908 does not bind the tribunal. Instead, it is natural justice principle that the tribunal will follow. Then we have the Wildlife Protection Act Amendment Bill 2021, very recent. So this was introduced in Lok Sabha by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and the bill aims to increase the number of species protected under the law and implement the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, as I told you, the CITES. So the key features are Standing Committee of State, Board of Wildlife. They can propose the creation of standing committees, then wildlife management plans, and rationalization of schedules of the wildlife through the Wildlife Act, bringing it down to major schedules. So this was very strong acts which has given powers to various Indian states to tackle these green crimes. There are some provisions which are concerning the prevention and management of the environment. They are also included in certain other statutory statutes. For example, the Indian Penal Code 1960, then the Code of Criminal Procedure 1973, Atomic Energy Act 1962, Insecticide Act 1968, Factories Act 48, then Ancient Monument Archaeological Public Liability Insurance, Prevention of Food Adulteration, and then Indian Easement Act of 1982. Well, some of the landmark cases on environmental legislation in India, I would like just few of them. One very famous was J.C. Gulstone and Dunya Lal Seal in 1905. This is the first environmental pollution incident reported in India. And in this case, the plaintiff sued the defendant's adjacent factory for discharging waste liquid from its manufacturing process into a municipal drain that passed through the plaintiff garden. He claimed that the liquid had an unpleasant smell and was harmful to the health of nearby residents, especially his own, and secondly, damaged his health, comfort, and the market value of his garden property. So the defendant admitted to foul smelling his liquid waste but denied that it was harmful or would damage the plaintiff property. He said his factory was licensed by the government, but the judgment was later appealed to the Calcutta High Court. So long back in 1905. Then we have very famous MC Mehta versus Union of India 1988, in which a writ petition has been filed in Supreme Court to prevent leather tanneries from dumping household and industrial waste in river Ganga. This was very famous case, and in this certain treatment plan has been incorporated to curb water pollution. And after that, lot of changes have been seen. And now these tanneries, they are strictly following, they have to follow, otherwise they will be in problem. So lot of treatment plants and then zero liquid discharge and so many activities have started after that. And very famous was MC Mehta versus Union of India. You all have heard about Taj Mahal, that according to petitioner, the foundries nearby around Agra in Taj Mahal, the chemical hazardous industries and the refinery at Mathura, they are the major source of damage to the Taj. And this became a internationally renowned case in which the MC Mehta, Mr. MC Mehta, he was able to, uh, bring the environmental issue and the concern of the green crime in the forefront of the world, and people and everybody, it took attention of everyone. Then we had some of those like Narmada Bachao Andolan versus Union of India in 2000, in which the Supreme Court has declared the right to have access to drinking water as a part of right to life and human right as enshrined in the Article 21 of the Constitution of India. Another was Indian Handicraft Emporium versus Union of India. This was very interesting, that the Supreme Court held that trading in ivory is totally banned under Chapter 5th 8, and any person who has obtained a certificate from the Chief Wildlife Warden under Section 49C3 may keep possession of such property but cannot display it on any commercial premises. Then we have one Samir Mehta versus Union of India in 2017, in which the environmentalist filed a claim for damage from the sinking of a ship which was named MV Rak. It was carrying large quantities of coal, fuel, and diesel. When the ship sank on Mumbai's southern coast, a thick layer of oil formed on the sea surface, causing major damage to mangrove and marine ecosystem. So the court ruled that the sinking of the ship was due to the negligence of defendants and ordered defendants to pay rupees 100 crores to the Ministry of Shipping Government, which is till now one of the largest sums paid by a private entity for environmental damage caused. So it remains the largest compensation payment to the government by a private entity. Then we have some international environmental crimes. I would like to give you few examples that there are agencies like the G8, the Interpol, the European Union, the United Nations Environmental Programme, the United Nations Inter-Regional Crime and Justice Research Institute. So they are all recognized that some of the broad crimes globally they can bring, and this is under environmental purposes of the Environmental Investigation Agency London report. These are some of the crimes like illegal trade in wildlife. So in contravention of the 1973 Washington Convention on International Trade of CITES, then in illegal trade in ozone depleting substances, that is in contravention of the 1987 Montreal Protocol on the substances that deplete ozone layer. And very interestingly, today we are celebrating World Ozone Day. And very good news is that the 197 countries who signed this Montreal Protocol in 1987, we are towards achieving the target of reducing, the ozone hole by reducing these ozone depleting substances. So the world has realized that it is only one earth which we are living into, and we have to be one family. If we cannot reduce this, we will be doomed. Then dumping and illegal transport of various kinds of hazardous waste, that is under Basel Convention, and then illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing, which was in contravention to control imposed by various regional fisheries organization. Then illegal logging and trade in timber, and then we have biopiracy and transport of controlled biological or genetically modified material under 2000 Cartagena Protocol on biosafety. Then we have illegal dumping of oil and other waste. So these are the global, globally it is followed, and it happens in the common waters between the countries, between the different countries. So offenses under 1973 International Convention on Prevention of Pollution from Ship, that is MARPOL in short, and 1972 London Convention on Dumping. Then we have violation of potential trade restriction under 1988 Rotterdam Convention. Then trade in chemicals, that is 2001 Stockholm Convention, and the fuel smuggling to avoid taxes or future controls on carbon emission. Here I would like to share with you some major environmental crimes. Very interestingly, one is wild animal trafficking. It regarded by Interpol as the third largest illegal business in the world. And the cost of species increases with how threatened it is, and vice versa. So tropical birds like parrot, macaws, you have seen reptiles, which include serpent, crocodile, then arachnids, certain varieties of tarantulas, and then primates, capuchin, chimps, and lemurs and other animal species are the most frequently requested, and they are very very common. If you happen to go to Hong Kong market, if you happen to go to Singapore market, you can see it freely in their market. Then the sale of elephant or rhinoceros ivory on the black market for use in the manufacture of decorative products. So this is in wildlife animal this thing trafficking. Then another biggest is the indiscriminate logging, a crime, that is felling of the trees as a result of urbanization, industrialization, mining operation, and use of wood for domestic. And we all know that we are heavily depleting the forest, which we normally call it deforestation. And then the Brazilian government report that deforestation in the Amazon, which is the lung of the earth, because it sequesters carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen. The world's largest jungle increased by 29% in 2013. The most severe factor contributing to this environmental crime is the unrestricted logging done to obtain wood for farmland, furniture, and other items. This is very sorry state. Then we have finning. We remove the shark fins, and around 100 million sharks that are caught annually by specialized ships, up to 70 million are caught and their fins are removed. while they are still alive. So such a heinous crime before being thrown back into the water. This practice, which causes a drawn out of the agonizing death, has been prohibited in the European Union since 2003 because the price 1 kilogram of shark fin sells for around 600 euros on the Asian market. So which propagates that, but it is very heinous crime. Then we have illegal, unreported, unregulated fishing. There are common waters. I myself have seen it. I have spent 2 years in the ocean while doing my doctorate in the Indian Ocean. And the ships, they come from different countries. They come from Japan, they're from Britain, and then they do unregulated fishing because there are some areas which is no man's land on the in the sea areas, and beyond a particular, because every country has got an exclusive economic zone, and 200 kilometer beyond that there are areas which are does not belong to anybody. So this is a major issue, which is unreported, unregulated fishing, and this is depleting our fishery resources, which is the food for every 6 person on this earth. Then we have dumping in rivers and aquifers. We know that businesses, manufacturing, and government entities, they are the most common environmental crime offenders. The feces and the hazardous waste from workplace are often disposed of in a controlled manner. However, this doesn't always the case. And we directly pour this into the rivers, in the aquifers, and that uh, water resource, which is very limited to us, that gets spoiled. So I would like to conclude here that green criminology also looks at the way to stop and prevent environmental crime, as well as ways to lessen its effect on uh, non-human creatures and the environment. And in cases of environmental destruction, where irreparable environmental damage or loss of the animal life may already, life has already been incurred, traditional reactive policing strategies of identification, apprehension, and punishment, they run the risk of being insufficient. So to address the effect of environmental destruction, conventional legal systems are frequently insufficient, and green criminology's critical approach, which also aims to support preventive or disruptive enforcement activities aimed at preventing environmental harm before it occurs, is fundamentally based on assessment of alternatives. So I would like to say thanks, and thank you so much for your patient hearing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, it was very interesting session. So now we are moving forward to some important questions which been asked by the participants. So on behalf of the participants, may I request you to kindly respond the questions.
Please, please, most welcome.
So, so the question is, first question is, what is the ultimate goal of green criminology?
See, the ultimate aim of green criminology is to make everyone realize the importance of their own existence by not harming the environment. Not harming, and environment is a very big term. It is not only because, see, you belong to any field of, you may be a doctor, you may be an engineer, you may be a lawyer or anything, but we all require air and water to live. We require good land, we require good microclimate, all those things. So the green criminology has come into fore to make a realization that this murder and other things which are normally considered as crime, other than that also, even thinking bad about an environment is a crime. And indirectly also, for example, you cut a tree, but because of that hundreds of birds have become homeless, and because of that your particular area is becoming drought prone. Because of that, the soil erosion has started happening. So it is making realize, and I think it is the responsibility of our all young uh, lawyers, and I encourage them to be the to take the specialization of environmental as environmental lawyers, because we have very less people in this field. And if you have to justify your presence on this earth, you must care about your mother earth, and that will come with your specialization in environmental criminology.
Sir, we have another important question. How do green policing initiative help to develop sustainable society?
Very good question. In fact, green initiative, if we talk about, I will not tell you to go back and live 500 years back, but whatever act you do today should be something which is not further destroying the environment, which is not further, polluting. Try to have eco-friendly ways of living. Try to minimize your carbon footprint. If you minimize your carbon footprint and if you go for eco-friendly ways, and I tell you, try not to be a wasteful person. I have talked about it, and I have seen even in European countries when I was in England. The even in our country there is huge packaging required for just selling a small product. For example, toothpaste or your own mobile phone. When you go to mall, you feel very happy because he gives you in a very big bag with lot of wrappings. But once you come back to your home, you just take out that product, maybe mobile or maybe whatever small thing which you have brought, and the rest everything is just thrown into your dustbin. So why the hell we should go for this such huge packaging? And lot of European countries have started doing this. I have seen myself that they don't take their toothpaste, they don't keep into the packaging material. They directly keep it on the shelf and you go and just pick it up because it is nicely packed. You don't have to have another wrapping of a paper or another wrapping. So if you go for very eco-friendly way of living, these green measures, which is you have to start at your own home. You have to start that you have to minimize waste. You have to see that there is no leakages. You have to be very frugal. And if you think of living simple life, certainly it will help and it will encourage, and your own life will increase, your health of the world, health of the planet will increase. So these are the living, some basic things. If we follow simple rules, simple living, we will be happy for green activities.
Sir, thank you so much. Sir, as per my observation, I must have to say that the session is very interesting, and your respond on the questions in a very well manner. So, on behalf of entire faculty, entire team of the faculty development and the faculty of law, Integral University, I convey my deep and sincere regards to your today's valuable lecture. Sir, it was very informative and knowledgeable session. Again, thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.